Hey everyone, this is Jessie again, and welcome to video 3 of how to set up your gradebook in PowerSchools for Summit courses. So far, we've talked about traditional grade calculation, how to create our categories, how to weight our categories, and also how to set up projects in our score sheets, and also how to implement the policies surrounding projects and score sheets. So for this video, hopefully we'll be able to get through the rest of these things, so we don't need a video 4, fingers crossed. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how to create PFAs in your score sheets. So let's go take a look. So here we already have our project scores there with our missing and our comments and all that jazz. So to add PFA, we'll go over here to the plus sign in the top right corner and hit plus and select assignment. Save and continue. So again, you want to select all of the classes that you would like this to apply to. So it would be all of your Summit courses. That way you only have to do this once. And then in here, you're going to type 2.pfa. For select category, you'll select the purple PFA Power Focus Assessments. Leave the date as is, as long as it's within semester 1. So today's date would be fine. Make it points. And this is going to feel a little weird, but I'll explain why in a minute. Make it 1 point. Make sure that this is checked. Hit save and close. So select your classes. Title 2-point PFA, select the PFA purple category, make it today's date, set to points, make it 1 point, and make sure this is checked so that it counts into your final grades. And click Save and Close. And this will appear. Before I dive into explaining how we enter grades for PFAs, let's also set up AFA so I can kind of explain them together. So to add in my AFA category, I'll hit this plus button in the top right. I'll click Assignments. I'll select all the classes I want it to apply to, so my Summit classes. I'll title this 3-point AFA. I'll select my AFA category. I'll use today's date. And for points, I will again, very oddly, I'll explain why, make it just 1 point, and I leave this checked. Then I click Save and Close. So again, select your classes, title 3-point AFA, choose the black AFA category, use today's date, make it points, make it worth 1 point, and check. Click Save and Close. All right, so now we have our PFA and our AFA columns. Let's talk about how we enter grades for these. So here we actually have the student view, but the student view I think helps us best understand why we're making PFAs and AFAs 1 point currently. So this pacing line, which our students fondly call it the blue line of death, they do, it's sad. But we have this pacing line here. Currently, our pacing line is all the way over here between August and September. And therefore, for most of us, that means the blue pacing line is going to be in our first power focus, our first additional focus. First power focus, first additional, first power, first additional, first power, first additional. And because it is in the first for all of these, that's why we're using 1 point. The number of points that you have representing the PFA and AFA should reflect what PFA or AFA you're currently in, or how many the students should have done. So for instance, say we are in early November or about to enter into November, and our pacing line is here. So for English class, students should have completed 2 PFAs, and they're working on their 3rd. They should have completed 2 additional focuses, and they're working on the 2nd. In integrated science, they should have had 2 PFAs completed, and they're working on their 3rd. And again, 1 AFA completed, and they're working on their 2nd. and it seems to be the same case for all of the classes. So if we were in this time of the year, what would our gradebook look like? Let's go here. So I would select PFA, go to Assignment, I'd go to Edit Assignment, and I would change this 1 to a 2, because my students should have had 2 of their power focuses completed. And so now it's a 2. So my PFA is now worth 2 points because my students should have completed 2 PFAs so far and be working on their third. Since the student has completed 2 PFAs, I will go in here and give them 2 out of 2 points, also a 100. And that bumps their grade up because they have all of their PFAs completed. Now, say the student actually only has 1 of their PFAs completed and they are missing their other PFA. Instead of putting a 2 out of 2 here, I would put a 1 out of 2, click Save, and that means they have a 50% on their PFAs, a 1 out of 2. And we see that that drops their grade to 83% because they only have 50% of their PFAs completed so far in the year. All right, AFAs are unfortunately ever so slightly different. I wish they were exactly the same, but we are mimicking what Summit does, and Summit treats AFAs slightly different from PFAs. Let me explain to you how. So I want to take a look at this view again, because this is actually our teacher view. And you'll notice with the power focuses, students have lost no points. And it's because so far in our year, there are no power focuses that they should have completed. And so I can see here, oh, all of them have a 100. They are fine. And so in order to represent that in my gradebook for the 1 point, I'm just not going to put any grade in yet. However, when I pass that first one, and 1 should be completed, for the students who have completed their first power focus, I'll put in a 1. And for the students who have not completed that first power focus, I'll put in a 0. So considering the fact that probably most of us have not had a power focus pass yet, you actually won't put anything in here today. This will remain blank. So unless if you've already had a power focus pass, please just leave this blank. But once you do, or if you have already had a PFA pass, you'd put in 1 if the student does it, or you'd put in a 0 if the student has not done it. Now, AFAs, how are these different? So you'll notice here in this view that while there's no penalty here because the student hasn't done their first power focus, because they're still supposed to be working on their power focus, there is a penalty in the additional focus area. Even though this is the very beginning of the year, students are still receiving a -1. And so when I was talking about how additional focuses are treated a little bit differently, with power focuses, students are not penalized until after the blue line moves past them. So if the blue line was here, we would just leave the grade alone and not put any grade. When the line is here, we'd put a 1 out of 1, good job. When the line is here, they did it, 2 out of 2. When the line passes here, if they've completed this, it's a 3 out of 3. If they don't complete it, it's a 2 out of 3. And that's how we move forward. There's no penalty until the blue line passes. For additional focuses, there is a penalty from the very beginning. How lovely, Summit, thank you. So here, the blue pacing line is in the second additional focus. Unlike power focuses, this would actually count as 2 missing. So for power focus, we have 2 missing, even though this is in the third one. And for additional focus, we have 2 missing because this is in the second one. So power focuses, there's no penalty until the blue line passes. For additional focuses, there are. So let's use this one for instance. So this student right now would have a 2 out of 2 power focus. For additional focus, they would have a 0 out of 2. Womp womp. So if I go here to reflect this in my gradebook, I would go to this AFA, go to assignment, edit assignment, 2 points, save and close. And in my score sheet, I would then put a 0. And to just perfectly mimic what this looks like, this would be a 2 out of 2. And I click save. And so that is how this view would translate into the PFA and AFAs here. The student has 2 PFAs completed out of 2. Check. That's worth a 100%. We can see it right here, 100%, 2 out of 2. But for this one, they are penalized for both of these additional focuses, including the one where the blue line is. And so here, they have a 0%, a 0 out of 2. And that is affecting a very small part of their grade, because remember, AFAs are just 9%. And so that is how we do PFAs and AFAs here. I apologize on behalf of Summit, that is slightly different, but that is how we can accurately reflect what Summit is doing in PowerSchools. And when you get all these things in, you should notice that this grade right here, this 86, it should match what the student has over here. So for instance, for this student right here who has a 93, no missing PFAs, and 1 missing AFA, if I put all those grades in, I should see in this final grade that they have an 86. And so that's a really quick way to make sure that you've entered everything properly, is that the final grade located here should match the final grade located over here. And we can see that it does. Yay, we did it correctly. All right, so that is how we enter PFAs and AFAs. How much time do I have left on my recording? Let's see. All right, I'm so sorry guys. We're gonna have to have one more video and it'll be on how to do the honors credit, and then I'll leave you guys alone. So sorry. All right, so I'll see you in video 4 to talk about how we add an honors credit. See you there?